Hello, welcome back to In the Kitchen with the Dietitian. I'm Jane Story. Today we are going to do another episode in my series on whole grains. We are going to talk about bulgur. Bulgur can be traced back to Israeli, Roman, Egyptian, and Arabian times as early as 1000 BC. Bulgur is not a unique entity, rather it is whole grain wheat that has been soaked, boiled, dried, and cracked. We get bulgur. If it is just cracked wheat, that is just whole grain wheat that has been cracked. It has not been soaked or boiled. When it is with a young green wheat, it is considered frika. And I will do an episode on that grain as well. If you are gluten intolerant or have celiac disease, you will want to stay away from bulgur as it has gluten. However, that does not mean you have to be grain-free. There are plenty of whole grains that do not contain gluten naturally, and those can be found on the Whole Grain Council website. I will provide you with that link. I'm going to show you 3 different ways that we can include bulgur into our daily eating patterns. We are going to do an overnight oats version using bulgur. We are going to do a method on the stove making sloppy joes, and we are going to do a crock pot version where we are cooking it in milk. Let's get to it. To start, we are going to get the crock pot version going. I have some vegetable oil spray. I'm just going to spray the inside to make sure nothing sticks since I'm using milk. I have 1 cup of ultra-filtered Fairlife milk that I'm going to put in here. And this is just to get some protein. My goal is to get as much protein as I can when I'm using grains and fruits because we have some carbohydrates that we need to offset. And then I have 1/4 cup of bulgur, which is about 40 grams. And we're just gonna put that in there. We don't really need to stir it. I'll just shake it up a little bit. Put the lid on. We're gonna cook on high for about 2 hours. We don't have to do this in the morning. We could do this ahead of time and put it in the fridge overnight or put it in the freezer and have it ready whenever we want it. I'm just cooking 1 serving right now to show you the dish. For our next dish, we're making overnight bulgur instead of overnight oats. I have a 5.3 ounce cup of Chobani reduced sugar yogurt, and then I'm going to use a 1/4 cup of the 2% Faya to give it a little bit more protein to balance out these carbohydrates. I have 2 tablespoons of bulgur, 2 teaspoons of pecans, a teaspoon of mini Ghirardelli chocolate chips, a 1/4 cup of blueberries, and then I'm gonna have a cup of strawberries. I wanna show you a little trick I'm gonna use. I have this little gadget here, usually used for eggs. You can use it for mushrooms. You can use it for strawberries. This is a heavy duty version. I got this at a restaurant store. I have had cheaper versions where as soon as I stuck a strawberry in there, the strings just broke. So if you're gonna do this or you want to invest in it, make sure you get a good one so that you can cut multiple items. I am going to put the camera overhead so you can see what's going on. We'll start with mixing our yogurts together. So I have a 1/4 cup of that 2% Greek yogurt. I'm using 2% also because I want to make sure that I get enough fat in this meal as well. We do need fat in our diet to absorb those fat-soluble vitamins. And the Chobani less sugar, so you can see that close up. This comes in many different flavors. I like to use this in my meal plans because it is less added sugars than most yogurts are. All right, and then we're gonna take, we got the bulgur. I got 2 tablespoons here, so that's equivalent to 1/8 of a cup, so it's about a 1/2 serving of bulgur. And put that in there, stir that up. We're gonna set that aside, and then I'll show you my strawberry trick. We need a cup of strawberries. We need to get the ends off. I do wash mine ahead of time. I just make sure that I leave the ends on them, and then I dry them with a paper towel after I do it to kind of keep them better longer. But if you don't wash them ahead of time and then you want one, then you don't get it because it was too inconvenient to get. So yes, my strawberries might not last quite as long, but I do wash them ahead of time. I do not wash raspberries ahead of time. I also wash my blueberries ahead of time. Okay, so this is my little tool here, and I'm gonna just put that in there like that, press down, and then that gives me a whole bunch of little slices. I'm just gonna put those in the cup. You can do this however you like. If you would rather dice up the strawberries, that's fine. There's no wrong or right way to do this. Okay, so I'm just gonna put a little bit here in the bottom. I got this rubber thing here so I can bang it down and we don't have to listen to that. And then I'm just gonna take some of my strawberries and throw them down here. Make sure I kind of lay them flat. I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of my pecans in there on the layer. Sometimes I will use my grater to make my nuts go further. But that's up to you to make the flavoring go further. So if I just take the nut and grate it over this. And then I have just a little bit left of the mix. Go ahead and put this. And then we have that 4th cup of blueberries. And then we have the rest of that 2nd teaspoon of nuts. I'm just gonna leave these kind of whole. And then to top it all off, my favorite part, we're gonna use a teaspoon of those Ghirardelli mini chocolate chips. And we're just gonna put those right on top. But you could layer those in if you like. And there we have it. Again, this can be layered however you want to layer it. Next, we're at the stove. We're gonna do the sloppy joes with bulgur. I have all the ingredients here. I am gonna switch to overhead again so you can see what's going on. As I always start out, we're going to spray the pan. And then we're gonna turn on to about medium-high. And get that heated up. I have 1 cup of peppers here. You can see I bought the little peppers and then I just sliced them just to add some different texture to this recipe. So we'll put those in. I have 1 cup of finely diced red onion. And I have an 8-ounce package, which is about 3 cups of sliced portobello mushrooms. We're gonna get these cooked down just a little bit, and then we're gonna add in the ground beef. So that was 5½ cups of vegetables, plus the can of tomato sauce. Okay, so I got that cooked down a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and add the ground beef. I'm using a 96% lean ground beef. This is 1 pound. I'm trying to make sure we're using just 1 pot for all of this. I have this wonderful silicone. It's very flexible. It's not like the hard ones to not scratch up my pan, but this works great for breaking up ground meat. This will get cooked after everything cooks here, so we don't have to be concerned about the ground beef not getting cooked thoroughly, because it will after we put all the ingredients in and let it simmer to let the bulgur soak up some of the liquid. And since we're nearing the cooking of the ground beef, I'm going to go ahead and add this bulgur in so it can absorb some of that liquid that's left. We've almost gotten rid of most of the pink in here on the hamburger. Since we're nearing the end of this, I'm going to add garlic. I wanted to show you an option. This goes in your freezer. They're little garlic cubes in case you don't want to use fresh garlic. You just push them out, and so this was equivalent to 2 cloves of garlic. I'm just going to put that in there and let that melt and get fragrant. I have that 15-ounce can of tomato sauce, so almost 2 cups. This is not low sodium because there's not a whole lot of salt in this recipe, so I let this just be regular. So pour that in. I have 1½ cups of beef stock unsalted. You could use reduced sodium if you wanted to get a little bit more salt in here for flavor. Don't worry, this will thicken up. The bulgur will take up all that liquid in there. We just need to let it cook. Okay, for seasoning, I have coriander, 1 teaspoon. I have smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon. I have a seasoned pepper blend, and that is 1 teaspoon also. Ground mustard, and that is 1 teaspoon. And then I have cumin, my favorite, and I have 1 teaspoon of it as well. All right, and then we'll just go ahead and get this stirred up. And we're gonna let that go for about 20-25 minutes. Let it get boiling, and then it'll soak up all of that water, that bulgur will. I'm gonna reduce the heat to probably medium-low. Our sloppy joes on the stove are coming along nicely. We still got some liquid that needs to be soaked up. I'm just gonna leave the lid off now that I've had it boiling for probably about 15-20 minutes. Our cooking time is winding down on the bulgur and the crock pot, so we need to get the other ingredients ready. I have a 1/2 cup of sliced grapes here. I'm gonna spray this cooking pan with some cooking spray. And then I'm going to go ahead and pour those sliced grapes onto the pan. I'm gonna give them a quick spray. And then I'm going to take a tablespoon of this Modena vinegar, balsamic vinegar. Pour that on there. And then I also have a flavored cranberry balsamic vinegar that I got at TJ Maxx, just to add a little bit more flavor because cranberries and grapes go together. So we'll go ahead and add that. And then I'm just roll that around. We're gonna put this in my easy bake oven for probably 400, maybe 5 minutes. Give it a look. We just want to start breaking down some of the sugar that's in the grapes, and we'll get that started. So we got our grapes, and take it down to about 5, and we'll check on it at 5 minutes and see if it's cooked to our to what I want it to be at. I don't want it to burn. The grapes just came out of the oven. I gave them an extra couple minutes. After 5 minutes, they still didn't have that brown I was looking for, but they definitely are done now, and they smell so good. This might seem like an unlikely pairing, but it actually goes together quite well. I have the bulgur that I cooked in milk. It is setting up. Once you take this bulgur off the heat, it will start to harden a little bit. It may seem loose. This is totally up to you as far as the consistency that you like. I am going to move the camera overhead so you can see what's going on here. We have about a 1/2 cup of Greek yogurt to add some more protein to this dish on top of the milk that we put in there. I'm gonna scoop that on the side, right there. We're gonna use some cinnamon. Up to you how much you use. Just gonna sprinkle it. I love cinnamon. We also have a tablespoon of pecans. And typically, like I showed you before, I will shave them, but I'm gonna leave them whole this time. And we'll just kind of put them all over. To sweeten this up, I have a teaspoon of honey. And we will just drizzle that. We have our balsamic grapes and bulgur. I have shown you 3 different ways that you can use bulgur. We did sloppy joes on the stove top. We did overnight oats using bulgur. And then we had our balsamic grape breakfast cereal cooked with milk and yogurt added for more protein. Hopefully one of these looks interesting to you and you will give it a try. Next, you can stick around. I'm going to show you how I'm going to break up this meat so that we can have it ready for us in a pinch. If we wanted to have sloppy joes one night, it's already broken up into serving sizes. All we got to do is heat it up in the microwave and we're ready to go. So join me next time on In the Kitchen with the Dietitian. All right, thanks for sticking around. Things might get a little messy here, so I put my apron on. We are dealing with sloppy joes. I have this figured out to be 8 servings. For 8 servings, it is 150 calories. It provides us with a 3/4 ounce serving of whole grain, almost a cup of vegetables per serving, and 2 ounces of a lean protein. The total weight of this was 1,422 grams. I've divided that out by 8 and I get about 178 grams per serving. I will also give you what the cup equivalent would be of that. One thing we want to make sure when we're breaking these up is that we keep stirring this in, because there is some liquid out and we don't want to get one serving that has more liquid than the actual nutrients that we're aiming for. So just make sure you keep stirring it after you take a scoop out. I've already got my containers labeled and I've already got 8 containers out. So this is about 180 grams, close enough to 178. I'll go ahead and show that to you. It's all broken up. So it ends up being about 3/4 cup per serving. So in case you didn't want to weigh them all out like I'm going to, you could do measuring cups. Just make sure that each time you do that you stir it up to stir that liquid in. All right, I just thank you for sticking around to learn a way to make sure you get equal portions.